Alrighty, let's go. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're not gonna worry. All right. We're here. We're ready for this podcast. No. We're ready for this podcast. We're ready. We're ready. Let's transition over to my screen. Get the PhantomCast logo pulling up right now. It's actually really. I'm not gonna lie. For the short amount of time. For the short amount of time it took me to get the logo, I'm happy with it. Let's turn my mic volume a little up. There we go. That's beautiful. Alright. Football. Alright, we're going to start with NFL stuff. Alright. So, first on the list is trades. Alright. So, let's just talk about like the big trades that might be coming up in the NFL for next season, right? Actually, we'll start with what happened this season, right? Vikings got Hawkinson, the Colts got Vontae Davis, Ravens got Marcus Peters, that was 2019. The Vontae Davis was 2012. I think he retired not too long ago, I think. Let me see. I think he did retire. I could be wrong though. No, he's on the Dolphins. No, he did retire. Okay, because it says was. So either he's dead, or he retired. And since there's no date of death, I guarantee you it's just he retired. But when the Vikings retired Hawkinson, that was a big. That was big because it led them to being like a really explosive offense, along with Justin Jefferson. You had at the beginning of the season you had Kirk Cousins, but we all know how that turned out, and he kind of got knocked out for the season, and all that stuff. It was big. But it was real big. The NFL, I don't know if they've released the supposed changes. Okay, yeah. So it looks like Devontae Adams on the Raiders might be being traded. It says potential team fit is the Jets. I could see that. He played with Aaron Rodgers back in the Packers days when Rodgers was at the Packers. I think that was like 2014, I think, is when he was drafted. And until 21, when both of them left Green Bay, Rodgers being traded to the Jets and Devontae Adams going to the Raiders. Joey Bosa, he is currently playing at the Chargers, but is looking potential team fit as the Detroit Lions, and I could see that, like you're gonna have the explosive defense of the Lions. Like this year, their defense it's stepped up big time from last year. Because last year their defense was just straight garbage. Like everybody could admit there was like no defense for the Lions. Their safeties couldn't remain in coverage. Their CBs and DBs were just throwing everything away. The defensive line could barely get past the offensive line of any team that they faced. It was just horrible, right? But then all of a sudden this year, just like something just snapped, and something came in and said, "Hey, we gotta figure out what's wrong." They figured out what was wrong, and now they have one of the best defenses in the league in a span of just a few months. And that in my opinion, that's a big change. Like, yeah, you have teams that have had a good defense for like a while now, like the Bills and the Chiefs and the Vikings and the Saints, but some of those teams have started to fall back on the defense. since a lot of their defensive players have either retired or been traded. And I feel like if Bosa gets put from the Chargers to the Lions, I feel like the Lions would like jump everybody because he has been he was explosive when he could play. Granted, he did miss quite a few games due to injuries, but when he is able to play, he is one of those playmakers that is able to rush the passer, and he's able to get in there, get the sack, and he's just a very consistent player. He's always pressuring that quarterback all the time. You got the Bears looking for a new quarterback. Fields most likely being traded to the Falcons, which would be huge. He played, I think, a season at UGA and proved that him and Georgia teams worked. Right, and they're also thinking that with the draft, which we'll get into in a little bit, could be big as well because they're looking at like Jaden Daniels, Penix, McCarthy from Michigan, Bo Nix from Oregon. In the next couple of years, a lot of teams are going to be looking at Beck from UGA. They're going to be looking at a lot of these top-tier quarterbacks that might have stayed either for their senior year or their junior year. Because I think you can enter the draft as a sophomore, just the chances of you being actually drafted are like super, super low. That's why a lot of people don't. But like with Penix and McCarthy and Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels entering the draft this year, the quarterback position is going to be a big open field for a lot of these teams because they're going to be wanting those top-tier college rookies that are coming into the NFL, and they're going to be looking at putting them into those main positions, possibly starting or second string, to give them that ability to get that NFL experience. Because once they have that NFL experience and the college experience, those quarterbacks are going to be explosive. Like the running speed of Jaden Daniels, the accuracy of Bo Nix and Penix, the blocking that McCarthy was able to do this year. When he handed off, he put his body on the line quite a few times and got hit, but it blocked one of the players and allowed their running back to get into the open field and get up for a big game. But with Justin Fields being a really big pick for the Falcons, I feel like him, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts would be like a very tough center to beat because all four of those. Yeah, because if with him at coach for the Falcons now, you're gonna and the possibility of him pulling Justin Fields in, with the amount of talent you have on offense and defense, Justin Fields would fit in perfectly. Like you have Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson at running back. You got Drake London and Kyle Pitts at your number one receiver and tight end spots. You got Kyle Smith. You've got what's the other big receiver from the Falcons? I've completely forgotten his name. He played a lot. Let's go roster. Van Jefferson. You have Austin Mack. You got Scott Miller. You've got all of these people. You got Jonnu Smith. You got Michael Pruitt. You've got all these big name players that are super talented that have a chance of coming in and saying, hey, we're the Falcons. We can do stuff. We just need that coaching staff that allows us to do the stuff that we know that we can do. So, and Mac Jones being traded, it says could be traded, but I guarantee you he will be. He's not going to stay at the Patriots much longer. Belichick is gone, and it's just It's gonna be huge. They really are. You're going from being a team that went to the Super Bowl four or 5 years in a row. You have that 1 year gap where they made it to the playoffs, but they lost. I think it was the Eagles, right? They go a couple more times after that, and then you hit that real big roadblock once Tom Brady left. He went to the Buccaneers, and as soon as that happened, Belichick and the Patriots just started falling apart. And their defense couldn't do anything. Their offense could not score whatsoever. Then they get Mac Jones, and he shows that, hey, yeah, he was a really good quarterback in college. His college career was humongous at Alabama. But it wasn't the best because he was playing underneath players like Tua Tagovailoa and Bryce Young and like all of these like top tier Alabama quarterbacks that are playing in the NFL now with Mac Jones. They're showing that their time at Alabama meant more now than it did at Alabama. Whereas Mac Jones is showing his time at Alabama meant more at Alabama than it does now. Because he has started to decline rapidly. And I feel like if he goes to a new team, that would give him the opportunity to get into that big part of having the receiving core he needs and being able to propel himself back up in the list. Let's look at mock draft for the NFL. Obviously, the round 1 pick goes to Chicago since it was traded from Carolina, clearly going to Caleb Williams. I mean, it's just a clear choice. I mean, he's accurate. He is speedy. I mean, he is one of the best college football quarterbacks I've seen in a while, and it would be surprising if the Bears passed him up. It really would be. Number 2 pick is the Washington Redskins. I know they're the Commanders now, but I'm not calling them Commanders. I'm really not. Yeah, no. The only thing they command is their own downfall. But they're looking at Drake May from North Carolina. That would be a real big pick as well. I feel like he would fit in well there because they need a new quarterback big time. Their quarterback now, Sam Howell, is just not as good as we thought he would be. Round 3 pick is the Patriots, looking most likely at Ohio State's wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. And going back to what I was saying with Mac Jones, that would, if they don't trade Mac Jones, that would give him another big receiver that he needs to be able to be successful because the receiving core for the Patriots right now is just not the best. Number 4 pick is the Cardinals, and they're looking at Clemson's cornerback Nate Wiggins. Number 5 pick is the Chargers, most likely grabbing Brock Bowers from Georgia. That would bring their tight end core up significantly. Brock Bowers, he was just living highlight reel. Like, take the SEC championship, for instance. Yeah, they lost to Alabama. So what? He ran over 10 different players, including a defensive lineman, shoving every single one onto the ground, and still scored a touchdown off of it. Like, it takes so many people. Like, if you take the receiving hands of, let's just say Georgia players, right? So you've got the speed of, say, Lad McConkey, right? They have pretty much about the same speed. They ran about the same 40-yard dash. It was pretty close in their numbers, right? He's a speedy, he's a pretty quick tight end, and that most of that comes from his long legs and being able to get those farther strides, but that's beside the point. Another big thing is he has that physicality of, say, Herschel Walker, where he just as soon as he gets that ball, if he sees a defensive player coming up at him, say a linebacker or a safety, he tucks that ball in, puts his shoulders down, and he runs right into him, and it knocks him down almost every time. You've got, I'd say, probably about the stamina of a real big player called George Pickens. Both of them, they don't quit. Brock Bowers went into surgery during I think it was week 8, after the game against Kentucky. No, excuse me. It was the game against Tennessee. No, Missouri. Excuse me. I'm getting last year's schedule mixed up. Missouri. He gets his ankle rolled on, right? Destroys his ankle. Has to go into surgery like 2 days later. He comes in a week later playing against Ole Miss and puts in 2 touchdowns. Like, the thing is people underestimate him. Like, he really probably should not have been playing, but he did. And it led... He was just an amazing player at Georgia, and I feel like once he goes in the NFL, he'll carry that tradition on. Number 6 pick is the Giants, most likely looking at Malik Neighbors from LSU. Tennessee Titans get pick number 7, and they're looking at Rome Odunze from Washington. Falcons looking most likely at an edge rusher, Jared Verse from Florida State, for the number 8 pick. They're also looking at Jaden Daniels for quarterback. But since they're losing Calais Campbell to free agency, as well as Bud Dupree, the taking of Jared Verse would probably be the best pick, because it would help them say, hey, even if we're not able to get Calais Campbell and Bud Dupree back, we'd have another edge rusher that we know will perform well in Jared Verse. I'll go to, say, 12. Round 9 is the Bears again, looking at Joe Alt, the offensive tackle from Notre Dame. New York Jets get pick number 10, Olu Fashanu from Penn State. 11 is the Vikings. They're looking at Jaden Daniels from LSU as well, since their main quarterback, Kirk Cousins, is out of commission for a while. And number 12 is the Broncos, looking at Terrion Arnold from Alabama. And I feel like all of those picks not only are big, but they're also really, really fitting for what those teams need. Like, yeah, you got Chicago in need of pretty much everything, right? New quarterback, new running backs, I said that back. Their running back core is pretty decent, right? You got Khalil Herbert, I think. Yeah, Khalil Herbert. You got him. And that's pretty much all that you got for Chicago for good running backs. So, I take that back. You got one decent running back for Chicago, and that's pretty much it. Like, your receiving core is okay. Your quarterback gets injured every other week, and throws so inaccurately. And like you're just in need of pretty much everything. So let's go into new hires for the NFL. You're looking at Atlanta hiring Raheem for their coach, Raheem Morris for their head coach. You got Carolina Panthers new head coach Dave Canales. You had, as well as general manager Dan Morgan. You got Chicago Bears hiring offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. and the quarterbacks coach Kerry Joseph. Bengals are hiring offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher. The Jags are hiring Ryan Nielsen for defensive coordinator, and linebackers coach Matt House. The new head coach for the Raiders is Antonio Pierce. Let's see, you got Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. And a lot of people are saying, he needs to stay at Michigan and all that, but like he's reached the top of the mountain in college. He reached the top, right? He reached the top with Michigan. He reached it with Stanford by winning the FCS, FBS, and breaking records there. Broke records at Michigan. Like he's reached the top multiple times in college football at multiple different levels, D2 and D1 schools. And now he just wants to have that big name of saying, "Hey, I just won a Super Bowl." He wants to reach the top of the NFL now. And I feel like with the coaching staff the Chargers have, as well as the raw talent they have, it's possible. I feel like it. Yeah. The Patriots hired Jared Mayo to succeed Bill Belichick. The Giants got special teams coordinator Michael Gabriel. Tennessee Titans have Brian Callahan as their new head coach. Let's see. Let's go into the firings. Atlanta Falcons fired Arthur Smith. Carolina Panthers fired Frank Reich, Scott Fitterer. Basically half their coaching staff has been fired. You had Jacksonville fired their defensive coordinator Mike Caldwell. Raiders fired Josh McDaniels from head coach. Chargers fired Brandon Staley as head coach. The Saints fired Pete Carmichael as their offensive coordinator. You had Tennessee Titans fired Mike Vrabel as their head coach. Which I feel like that one was a little iffy of a decision because he was 54-45 at Tennessee. He had 3 trips to the playoffs at Tennessee, and this is in 6 seasons. Right, 3 trips to the playoffs and an AFC Championship game appearance in 6 seasons. 54-45 record. He was a good head coach. I feel like Titans might have gotten away with keeping him. Their coordinators are what need to be gone. But, it is what it is. It's their choice. But I feel like if they had kept him, he probably would have led them to possibly another, another playoff appearance. But they need new coordinators. Their coordinators, they don't know what they're doing. They really don't. They've gone through 3 different coordinators in the last 6 seasons. And each one of them has gotten progressively worse. They are starting to look like Mike Bobo, where each one gets fired, hired at a new team, and worsens. Like Mike Bobo, he was okay at the very beginning, right? Then he gets fired by Georgia and gets put at Auburn. Gets absolutely dominated by teams at Auburn. The offense couldn't do anything. So he gets fired from Auburn, goes to Florida, right? Florida now has Mike Bobo. Their offense can't do anything, right? He gets fired in 2019 from Florida. 2020 comes in, and Florida's in the college football playoffs. You just fired probably arguably one of the worst offensive coordinators in college football. And now, look at that. Your offense is averaging 35 points a game. Meanwhile, the previous season, y'all were averaging 15 points a game. It was horrible. And now, Florida, they're Florida. They're worried about wrestling alligators more than they are football. But that's beside the point. Then you got, then he gets rehired by Georgia, and the offense that had gone in and destroyed TCU in the national championship, 65-7, without my Bubbo. Take this into consideration. He was not there. He comes in, lowers their average yards per game, lowers their average points per game, and then throws in some very controversial plays during the SEC championship against Alabama, which in turn makes them lose, and then in turn puts them against Florida State, where they, had a televised practice. But the thing is if he hadn't thrown in those controversial offensive plays, they most likely would have beaten Alabama. But my Bobo, being just like most of the offensive coordinators at the Titans, they don't know what they're doing. But the Titans fire Vrabel instead, and I don't know if he's been rehired anywhere. Commanders fired Ron Rivera as their head coach. He was not the best. Let's just be honest, he was not the best. Yeah. It was... Ever since this whole let's change the name because the name is racist crap has come in, you had like the Guardians being albeit used to be the Indians, the Redskins that used to be, or the Commanders that used to be the Redskins. You have the Braves that are getting backlash from it. You got the Blackhawks in the NHL are getting backlash from their name. The Chiefs are getting backlash because of their logo. Like, it's stupid, and these people need to be stopped. They really do. Because you have teams that are having to physically change the appearance of their stuff that they have had for probably, take the Redskins, for instance. They had been the Redskins since their opening, which was, I think, 80, 90 years ago. And they've been the Redskins since. And then all of a sudden, 2020 comes in, and they want this quote-unquote woke generation. And it puts everybody into this mindset of, oh, everything's racist because it doesn't pertain into me. You had Black Lives Matter protests that were killing people at protests. You had the sports teams getting backlash because of their names and logos. You had political figures getting backlash because they were quote-unquote racist to other people, like Donald Trump. Don't even get me started on that crap, where people are saying, oh, he's racist, but he's, I don't know. Here, we'll just say this. With Donald Trump, name one president that's gone into North Korea, had a peace treaty signed by Kim Jong-un, and made it out alive. Name one. Other than Donald Trump. Name one. There isn't any. He was the first and probably the only president invited to North Korea. Because Kim Jong-un knew what he could do and was scared of him. And Biden comes in, rips up that treaty pretty much, and is wondering, oh, why do we have nuclear warfare being threatened to us? I wonder why. It was weird. Anyways, let's talk about NBA. Right, you got let's see. Let's go with records broken this season. LeBron became the league's leading scorer, and he needs 1,348 more points to become the only player in league history to score 40,000 points, and yet he's still not considered the GOAT over Michael Jordan. But we'll get into that in a bit. You had Jokic moves up the triple-double list. Kevin Durant reached top 10 all-time scoring. That's big because he was not, in that consideration for a little while during the 2019 and 2020 season because he was not performing well at all. Now, he's up there, Russell Westbrook and James Harden both scored 25,000 career points. Damian Lillard breaks 20,000 points with 2,500 three-pointers. Giannis hits 2 records. Let's see. Holds the record for most defensive rebounds for the Bucks. Steph Curry leads Warriors in minutes played. Not surprising because he's like the only good player there. Trae Young drops most assists for the Hawks. That's not surprising because he's like the only good player there. At least this season, that is. Last season, they were pretty decent, but this season, they're just horrible. Like, I don't know what went wrong. You lose 2 good players to a trade. And that was it. 90% of your team is the same as it was last year. And now y'all are just getting absolutely whooped by almost every team. It's crazy. It really is. But going back to LeBron versus Jordan, I almost said Michael Jackson. God damn. Pretty sure that's not the right Michael. And it's not Michael B. Jordan either. Let's just let's look up who's the GOAT, right? Clearly Michael Jordan, right? It's clear. There's no debate about it, right? Let's see. Let's look at the stats, shall we? So you've got let's reading through this article real quick. It says Jordan has a relatively large points per game lead over LeBron. Okay, here's a stat sheet. For Michael Jordan, he averaged 2.3 steals per game. LeBron averages 1.5. So, clear winner there. Rebounds is 7.5 per game for LeBron, 6.2 for Michael, so 1-1 in the tally. Points, 30.1 points per game for Michael and 27.2 points per game for LeBron. Assists is 7.3 for LeBron and 5.3 for Michael, and then they're both tied at 0.8 blocks per game. And this is as of February 16th, 23. So it's tied at 2.5, I'll say, right? And people are like, oh, well, LeBron is the clear GOAT. Well, take into consideration that Michael Jordan never lost in the finals. LeBron has, many times. And Michael had to play on a Bulls team that first year he won the finals with them that was not very good. He basically carried them. And LeBron has had to play in the finals against teams that were, in my consideration, pretty, I don't want to say garbage because they were good enough to get there, but against LeBron's teams, they just weren't the best. Right? Like, yes, you had LeBron win a lot of games in the regular season last year. You had LeBron breaking records in his past years, but you also have to take in consideration that the whole point of LeBron versus Michael is the fact that Michael only lost twice in the playoffs, and that was against the same team, and I think that was the Thunder. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on it, but I think. But in the finals, he was 6-0. Never lost in the finals. He won 6 finals with the Bulls. Right? However, LeBron has lost 4 finals. So, plus the fact that Michael Jordan has won Olympic gold medals. LeBron hasn't, because NBA players aren't allowed to play in the Olympics anymore, I don't think. But that's kind of beside the point, you know? Like, it's a clear winner who it is. You know, MVPs, LeBron has less than Michael. NBA Finals, LeBron has less than Michael. Scoring titles, LeBron has less than Michael. LeBron has 3 more All-NBA first teams than Michael, but Michael has 4 more All-Defensive first teams than LeBron. And then LeBron has 5 more All-Star games than Michael. But you also have to take in consideration that Michael Jordan was breaking records in a short amount of time. He did not play for very long. And he played for, I think, 13 seasons, whereas LeBron is on his 21st. And yet he's still under Michael in certain areas. Another thing is that Michael Jordan never played a Game 7 in the finals. And LeBron had 8 consecutive years in the finals. 8 consecutive years. And he only won 3 out of those 8 years. Whereas Michael went 3-0 from 91 to 93. And he won those 3. Lost in the playoffs a couple of times. And then won 3 more. And he retired in 2003. So, I think that just kind of goes to show that LeBron, yes, he may be the best current player, along with like Steph Curry and James Harden and all of those players. But as far as all time, the clear winner is Michael Jordan. So, let's look at MLB. Let's look at MLB trades. All right. Yeah, the Braves acquired outfielder doesn't even show who it is. That's funny. But we're traded for right-handed pitcher Tyler Owens to the Rangers. It was J.P. Martinez, then went to the Braves. You had on the 22nd, you had the Rangers that named a lot of new coaches and staff. On Wednesday, January 17th, the Braves agreed to terms with shortstop Juan Mateo on a minor league contract. So that means right now he's playing for Gwinnett, but he'll be moved up into the MLB as soon as they see him fit. Let's look at a mock MLB draft and just tell who gets who, or who's looking at who, I should say. Guardians get the first pick, and they're looking at Nick Kurtz from Wake Forest. The Reds are looking at West Virginia shortstop J.J. Weatherholt. Rockies are looking at outfielder Charlie Condon from Georgia. And I don't think the Braves get a pick until pretty far down. Let's see when the first Braves pick is. They get pick number 24. I'm looking at Caminiti, left-handed pitcher from Saguaro High School from Arizona. Phillies are looking at Dakota Jordan from Mississippi State for pick 27. So, pretty decent picks, I say, you know. Let's go into World Series for 24. You know, opening day is 75 days from January 23rd, from January 13th. Dodgers right now are World Series favorites after adding Ohtani, Glasnow, and Yamamoto. Right under them is the Braves. Atlanta's odds went from plus 550 to plus 6. Went to plus 550 from plus 650 after they got Chris Sale at the end of December. The team that's least looked at for this one is the Rockies. That's not exactly the best looking stat for them, if I do say so myself. Rangers are plus 1100 in the world odds to win World Series entering this season after winning their first World Series last season. So that's, I guess that kind of makes sense, you know. I mean, they won it, whoop-de-doo, but it's tough to win back-to-back in the MLB. It really is. Let's look at NHL, you know. Look at pretty decent games from not too long ago. You got the Oilers beating the Blackhawks 3-0. Had the Lightning destroy the Coyotes 6-3. Had the Bruins go into overtime against the Senators and win it 3-2. Wednesday you had Maple Leafs going to overtime against the Jets, beat them in overtime 1-0. Sounds like a boring game, to be honest. I don't know if I could sit through that. I don't know if I could sit through that live. Maybe if I'm watching highlights, but not like live. I cannot sit through that live. I'm sorry. That sounds horrible. Let's look at best goalie in the NHL. You know, just out of curiosity, you got Ila Sorokin from the Islanders, Connor Hellebuck from the Jets, Andrei Vasilevsky from the Lightning, Jake Ottinger from the Stars. got Bobrovsky from the Panthers. Yeah. Let's look at top 10 goalies. 10 is Thatcher Demko for the Canucks. 9 is Philip Gustafsson from the Wild. Alexander Georgiev from the Avalanche for number 8. Jake Ottinger, number 7 for the Stars. 6 is Linus Ullmark for the Bruins. Jules Saros for the Predators is number 5. Connor Hellebuck from the Jets 4. E.S. Sorokin for the Islanders is 3. Igor Shesterkin from the Rangers is 2. And Andrei Vasilevsky from the Lightning is number 1. And this is his 5th year in a row being ranked number 1. This is his... This is after last season, so this is not considering this season. He was 34, 22, and 4. 2.65 goals against average. .915 save percentage. 4 shutouts in 60 games last season. Sounds small, but that's not that bad. 6 straight season he had at least 30 wins. I really feel like I really feel like if you put into consideration the fact that he helped lead the Lightning to back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2020 and 21, it would be a big thing to not tell him he's number 1 goalie, you know. And then, obviously, we'll just go top players in general. You got Rantanen at number 10. You got Sidney Crosby at number 9. Nikita Kucherov at number 8. You got Austin Matthews at number 7. Matthew Tkachuk, number 6. David Pastrnak, number 5. Cale Makar for number 4. Leon Draisaitl, number 3. Nathan McKinnon, number 2. Connor McDavid, number 1, is very controversial. I would honestly put Ovechkin at the top because, I mean, he's been breaking records left, right, and center in his career. And he's only about 64 goals off of topping Gretzky for most career goals. You know, like Wayne Gretzky obviously being like one of the, in my opinion, he is the best NHL player of all time. But you know, this is it's weird. Let's go to his stats. You know, Wayne Gretzky, you had 1,487 games played, 894 goals, 1,963 assists, 2,857 points, and plus 520 on his plus-minus scale. That is not bad at all. You know, his inaugural season as a rookie, played 70 games, 9 goals, 53 assists, 62 points, minus 23 though. He was undrafted, so it means he had to try out to get into the league. Started at the Oilers, ended his career at the Rangers. Now let's go to Alexander Ovechkin. You know, just because why not, you know. Let's go stats. So yeah, he was drafted in 2005. career, he has 830 goals. Yeah, so he's 64 goals off of topping Wayne Gretzky for most goals in a single career. And I guarantee you, he's probably going to play for a few more years, which means he has the opportunity to come in and take that spot. But it's going to take him being put on a real good team. The Capitals just, I don't think they're it anymore. Like, they used to be like the best team out there. They really did. But now you got teams like Tampa Bay and Toronto and Edmonton and New York Rangers and Boston and Florida and Carolina. Like, you got all these teams that have started to be top tier teams, and the Capitals have just started to fall apart. A lot of their good players started retiring and leaving the league, and then you had some controversial trades that came in recently. You had some very interesting things that were just not the best. But I mean, it's not up to me to say what's best for a team, because I don't own the team. But if I did, I would probably try my best to get them back to a playoff contending team. But it is what it is. It's not like they're the worst team in the league, right? Like, clearly they're not. They could be San Jose or Chicago right now. Like, let's just be honest. But they're real close, because they're right above Arizona, which isn't really saying much. They're above Seattle, which is weird, because Seattle went to the playoffs last year, and now this year they've fallen apart big time. But I mean, it's not like they're the worst. Like I said, they could be San Jose or Chicago. Like, and speaking of worst teams in the league, you got the Pistons for basketball. For baseball, you got the Guardians. For football, you got the Panthers. It's crazy. Pistons broke a new tied a record for a 28-game losing streak. It's like, and then the Raptors, they had the chance to beat that record, to have them beat that record, but sold the game in the last couple of seconds, and clearly they were able to break the streak, and now I think they're on another losing streak. I could be wrong, but I think they're still on a losing streak now, which doesn't look good on their resume. Nope, they beat the Hornets. Never mind. But that's not surprising, considering the Hornets are 10-32, meaning they've only won 5 more games than Detroit, which is not very impressive. They're only 3 spots above Detroit, so it's not like they beat Boston, which I guarantee you they're not going to beat Boston anytime soon. But I mean, it is what it is. It's like I always say, if you want to be the best, you have to act like you're the worst, and you have to prove something. Because if you're the worst and you think you're the best, you're not going to try to improve. You're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm the greatest. But that is how a lot of things go. But it is what it is. Anyways, I think I'm going to end it there. We've been streaming for quite some time now, actually. I think we've been streaming for, I don't even know how long, like an hour and a half, like about an hour. But I think we're going to end it there. Just a simple first episode of this PhantomCast. If you guys liked it, let me know. If not, it's up to you. But next episode we'll be talking about different games upcoming and new updates for different games and all that, and go from there. Hopefully Ryan will be able to stay in for a little bit longer. He had to leave early because he's about to start streaming. Go check out his channel. I'll create a link for it in the description. You can go check out his channel. But I will see y'all later. Bye.